Hey, this is Mark, and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. You know what's funny? We spend thousands of dollars on our first car, maybe 10, 15, even 20,000 if we're lucky or completely reckless with our finances. And then we sell it for a fraction of that price a few years later, sometimes for barely enough to cover a decent vacation. But here's the thing nobody tells you. The real cost of that first car has nothing to do with the sticker price or the monthly payments, or even that brutal insurance rate they slap on young drivers. The real price? It's measured in who you were before you got those keys and who you became after. And if you stick around until the end of this video, I'm going to tell you about the one thing every first car takes from us that we can never get back. Something that'll probably make you look at that old photograph in your garage a little differently. But before we get there, do me a favor, hit that like button right now, because what we're diving into today is something the auto industry doesn't want you thinking too hard about. And if this resonates with you, subscribe, because we're just getting started. So let's roll back the clock for a second. Picture this. It's sometime between the 1950s and today. Doesn't really matter when exactly. And there's a kid, maybe 17, maybe 22, standing in a driveway or a used car lot or outside their parents' house. Their heart's pounding, their hands are shaking a little, and they're holding a set of keys that weigh maybe 2 ounces, but somehow feel like they weigh 1,000 pounds. That moment, that exact moment right there, that's not just about transportation, that's about transformation. See, back in 1950, the average price of a new car was about $1,500, which sounds like nothing until you realize that the median household income was only about $3,000 a year. That means families were dropping half a year's wages on a vehicle. Half a year! Think about that. In today's money, with median household income around $75,000, that's like dropping 37 grand on your first ride. And plenty of people do exactly that, or worse, they finance it for 6, 7, even 8 years now, which is longer than most marriages last these days. No offense to anyone currently financing a Silverado. But why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Because a first car isn't a depreciating asset, even though financially that's exactly what it is, losing about 20% of its value the second you drive it off the lot. No, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually even, that first car is a portal. It's a time machine. It's the physical manifestation of freedom, and you can't put a price tag on freedom, which is exactly why dealerships absolutely can put a price tag on freedom and make a killing doing it. The American automobile industry figured this out generations ago. Henry Ford, that brilliant and deeply complicated man, he didn't just revolutionize manufacturing with his assembly line back in 1913. He revolutionized the American psyche. Before the Model T, before Ford made cars affordable for the working class, freedom meant something different. It meant maybe taking a train to the next town, or riding a horse if you had one, or mostly just staying put in the same 5-mile radius where you were born. But Ford changed all that. He understood that selling someone a car meant selling them possibility itself. By 1927, 15 million Model Ts had rolled off his assembly lines, and America was permanently altered. Suddenly, a factory worker could afford to live outside the city. A young couple could drive to another state. A teenager could escape the watchful eyes of their parents on a Saturday night. And that teenager? That's where our story really begins, because that's where the emotional price starts getting paid. Your first car gives you something nobody can give you. Not your parents, not your friends, not even time itself. It gives you autonomy. Real, tangible, metal and rubber autonomy. You decide where you go. You decide when you leave. You decide who comes with you and who gets left behind. And here's the scary part. Once you have that power, you can never unhave it. You can never go back to being the person who waited for rides, who depended on others, who lived in that smaller world. Your first car doesn't just change your location, it changes your identity. I remember reading about this study, and I wish I could remember which university did it, but they found that people remember their first car with more emotional clarity than they remember their first apartment, sometimes even their first relationship. Isn't that wild? We remember the smell, the sound of the engine, that one weird rattle that never quite went away, the way the steering wheel felt under our hands. We remember the freedom and the fear that came with it, because suddenly we're responsible not just for getting from point A to point B, but for our own lives in a way we never were before. And responsibility, real adult responsibility, that's terrifying. The auto industry knows this. They've always known this. That's why car commercials don't sell you horsepower and fuel economy. Not really. They sell you identity. They sell you the image of who you could become. In the 60s and 70s, they sold rebellion, muscle cars with names like Mustang and Barracuda and Charger, cars that promised you could break free from conformity. In the 80s and 90s, they sold safety and family, minivans and SUVs for the generation that was growing up and having kids. And today, they're selling you technology and sustainability and status, electric vehicles that cost more than most people's houses used to cost, but promise you're saving the planet while also looking incredibly successful. But your first car, that car didn't have to promise you anything because it delivered everything just by existing in your driveway with your name on the title. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something most people never think about. The financial decision to buy your first car is almost always a terrible one, objectively speaking. The depreciation alone is brutal. Insurance for young drivers can run $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000 a year. Maintenance, gas, repairs, parking, registration, it all adds up to what financial advisors call a money pit. There's a reason why every personal finance expert tells you to buy used, to avoid car payments, to think of vehicles as necessary evils rather than dreams. But we don't listen, do we? Because the emotional value, the psychological value, that completely overwhelms the financial reality. We're not buying a car, we're buying our independence. We're buying our adulthood. We're buying the story we'll tell ourselves about who we were when we were young and fearless and just getting started. And that story's priceless, even when it costs us everything we have in our savings account plus 18% APR on a 5-year loan. Let me throw a pattern interrupt at you here. Have you ever noticed that we name our first cars, but we never name our second or third ones? Think about it. That first car gets a personality, gets a nickname, becomes almost like a friend or a family member. But car number 4? That's just the Honda or my SUV. We stop projecting our hopes and dreams onto our vehicles once we realize they're just machines.
But that first one? That one's special, because we're special when we drive it. We're becoming someone new. History shows us this pattern repeating across generations. After World War II, returning soldiers wanted nothing more than to hit the open road, and the auto industry exploded. The 50s saw this incredible boom in car culture. Drive-in movies, drive-in restaurants, suburban sprawl, all made possible because suddenly everyone could afford a car, and everyone wanted the freedom that came with it. The economic impact was staggering. By 1960, 1 in 6 American jobs was directly or indirectly related to the automobile industry. We literally built our entire economy around these freedom machines. And we built our emotional lives around them too. The first time you drove alone at night, where did you go? Did you just drive to clear your head, to think, to feel what it was like to be completely on your own? The first time you took a road trip with friends, no parents, no supervision, just you and the highway and whatever adventure you could find, those moments don't happen without that first car. Those moments of self-discovery, of testing your limits, of learning who you are when nobody's watching, those are the hidden costs and the hidden gifts of automobile ownership. But here's the thing that'll really mess with your head, and we're getting close to what I promised you at the beginning. That first car taught you something about impermanence that you weren't ready to learn. You thought it would last forever, didn't you? You thought you'd keep it, maybe restore it someday, pass it down to your own kids. But life happened. You needed something more reliable, something bigger, something that didn't break down every other month, so you sold it. Probably for way less than it was worth to you emotionally, and somebody else drove it away, and a part of your youth, a part of your identity went with it. You can never get that back. You can buy the same make and model, sure. People do it all the time, hunt down their first car on eBay or at a classic car auction, but it's never the same because you're not the same. The person who drove that car, who felt invincible behind that wheel, who thought the whole world was opening up in front of them, that person's gone. That's the real price of your first car. It costs you your innocence. It costs you that version of yourself who didn't know yet that freedom comes with responsibility, that independence means loneliness sometimes, that growing up means leaving things behind. The auto industry sells you a vehicle, but what you're really buying is a one-way ticket to adulthood, and there's no going back. So yeah, first cars change us forever, not because of what they give us, but because of what they take, our naivety, our dependence, our childhood. And in exchange, we get freedom and responsibility and memories that'll last longer than any car ever could. Pretty good trade, all things considered, but it'll cost you everything.